the gates of Jurassic Park open on the big screen, our minds are unconsciously filled with a classic image, mentioning sauropod dinosaurs, or sauropods. The human brain immediately sketches out towering creatures like Brachiosaurus or Diplodocus. They always appear as skyscrapers of flesh and bone, bearing a gentle, slow, and majestic demeanor, stretching their immensely long necks to the highest treetops to nibble on vegetation. That image is entirely accurate, but it is an incomplete picture. The greatness of this group of dinosaurs does not lie solely in their gigantic size reaching the clouds. The truth is, the sauropod lineage began to rise in the early Jurassic period, that is, over 180 million years ago, and resiliently survived until the mass extinction event at the end of the Cretaceous period. During that unprecedented era of dominance, nature did not mold them into a single blueprint. The brutal survival pressure of the Mesozoic era never allowed monotony a chance to exist. Today's journey will take us out of the halo of familiar giants to delve into the forgotten hidden corners of paleontological history. Together, we will explore the most bizarre evolutionary mutations that have ever appeared on Earth. Welcome to the world of the true weirdos of the Mesozoic era. When thinking about the feeding methods of long-necked dinosaurs, we often unconsciously imagine giant biological cranes slowly reaching up to the highest conifer canopies. Evolution seemed to have established an unwritten law. The longer the neck, the greater the chance of accessing abundant food sources. However, Mother Nature always has a way of mocking the rules she created herself. In a world obsessed with height and size, there were creatures that chose to bow their heads to the ground, developing feeding mechanisms that defied all conventional anatomical laws. Our journey stops at the land that is today, the El Raz Formation in the West African nation of Niger, during the mid-Cretaceous period. Over 110 million years ago, the currently arid and harsh Sahara Desert was once a lush floodplain ecosystem, where an intricate network of rivers nourished dense carpets of ferns and horsetails growing close to the ground. It was in this wet vegetation zone that paleontologists unearthed one of the most bizarre masterpieces of evolution, Nigersaurus taketi. If you had the chance to look straight into the face of Nigersaurus, you would find it hard to believe that this is a real structure in the world. There was no soft rounded snout or majestic pointed beak at all. Instead, its entire mouth was incredibly flat and flared out unusually to the sides. This skull had a bizarre appearance, looking exactly like the vacuum head of a giant carpet cleaner. But the true marvel was hidden inside that freakish oral cavity. Nigersaurus did not chew its food like other herbivores. Vertebrates typically have dental structures that follow the natural curve of the jawbone. But this dinosaur completely broke that mold. It arranged all its teeth into a perfectly straight horizontal line located at the very front edge of the snout. Furthermore, this was not just a simple set of teeth. Hidden deep beneath each active tooth on the surface was a vertical column of 9 replacement teeth neatly stacked on top of one another. With 68 columns in the upper jaw and 60 columns in the lower jaw, this biological machine was equipped with a formidable arsenal of over 500 teeth at a single time. Why did they need such a massive amount of teeth? The reason lies in their very food source. Continuously scraping, cutting, and nibbling low-growing vegetation, which was often mixed with highly abrasive sand and mud, caused Nigersaurus's teeth to be destroyed at a brutal rate. To cope with this reality, nature granted it an unparalleled machine gun tooth replacement mechanism. Every 14 days, the entire surface of old teeth would fall out, and a sharp new layer of teeth would immediately be pushed up to replace them. This is the fastest record for tooth replacement ever documented in the entire dinosaur world. Even so, to keep this heavy-duty lawnmower continuously operating in a lowered posture day after day, evolution demanded an extreme anatomical trade-off. A massive jaw system containing hundreds of teeth typically requires a dense, thick, and heavy skull to anchor the muscles. But Nigersaurus's skull was unbelievably light, as fragile as if it were crafted from transparent glass. Nearly 90% of its skull structure was empty space. The extremely thin bone struts responsible for connecting the snout to the back of the head were in some places merely 2 millimeters thick. This was truly an ultimate masterpiece of weight reduction engineering. This feather-light skull mass helped the animal, which was the size of a modern African elephant, avoid snapping its cervical vertebrae, while simultaneously allowing them to swing their heads flexibly from side to side. Leaving the flooded swamps of Africa, we head to the southern hemisphere. Entering the Patagonia region of Argentina during the late Jurassic period, about 150 million years ago. This was the most glorious golden age of the sauropod family, a true mortal arena where giant dinosaurs fiercely competed for the right to survive. The general rule of this era was to reach higher. The longer the neck stretched, the more guaranteed the chance to reach the untouched canopies of giant conifers. Amidst that relentless race to reach the clouds, Brachytrachelopan Maasai emerged as the ultimate rebel of destiny. While its relatives constantly lengthened their cervical vertebrae to become towering flesh structures, Brachytrachelopan was determined to take a completely reversed evolutionary path. Its neck was shortened incredibly, up to 40% shorter than its closest relatives in the Dicraeosauridae family. In fact, this dinosaur officially holds the record for having the shortest neck in the entire evolutionary history of sauropods. The length of its neck was not even equal to the length of its dorsal torso. Many would immediately ask, was this regressive choice a disastrous step back, a mistake of nature? The answer is no. It was a smart and subtle survival strategy called ecological niche partitioning. In a dense forest where hundreds of eyes of the giants were all looking towards the treetops, the competition in the uppermost canopy layers was incredibly fierce and consumed a lot of energy. Instead of plunging into a bloody battle to fight over every high leaf, Brachytrachelopan, with its modest length of about 10 meters and a weight of 5 tons, proactively chose to retreat. A specially locked spinal architecture did not allow them to raise their heads too high, inadvertently forcing this species to specialize in grazing on ground vegetation with a reach of only about 1 to 2 meters. At this low height, they did not face any competition from other sauropods, completely monopolizing an abundant energy source that the bulky giants could not bend down to reach. In the brutal natural world of the Mesozoic era, the most fundamental law of survival for herbivores is often summarized in a simple proposition: become a giant. For most sauropod dinosaurs, sauropods, massive size was the ultimate immunity card. When a creature could reach up to 20 meters tall and weigh dozens of tons, its massive body mass itself was an impenetrable fortress, enough to make any bloodthirsty predator falter. However, not every sauropod was lucky enough to possess the size of a mountain. When stripped of the privilege of immense size, they were forced to seek another, more fierce survival solution, equipping themselves with formidable arsenals and armor. This violent evolutionary journey brings us back to the Patagonia region of South America in the early Cretaceous period, the homeland of creatures bearing the shapes of terrifying dragons straight out of mythology. The Dicraeosauridae brothers, the first representative and also one of the most famous dinosaurs for its weirdness, is Amargasaurus. With a modest length of only 9 to 13 meters, Amargasaurus was a lightweight runt in the world of long-necked giants. To compensate for that modest size, nature granted it an unmistakable appearance. Running along from the back of its neck down to its back were 2 rows of neural spines shooting upwards, parallel and sharp. The longest spines in the cervical vertebrae region could reach a height of up to 60 centimeters. For decades, this terrifying anatomical structure has been the center of debate among paleontologists. Some scientists believe that these spines were covered by a thick skin membrane filled with blood vessels, forming a great double sail stretching across the animal's back. This sail could have acted as a massive heat dissipation system under the blazing sun, or as a brightly colored billboard used to show off strength, intimidate enemies, and attract mates during the breeding season. However, another more practical and bloody hypothesis suggests that they were simply bare spines encased in an ultra-hard layer of keratin, much like the horns of modern rhinos. They turned Amargasaurus's neck into a razor-sharp bed of spikes, ready to pierce through the palate of any theropod, carnivorous dinosaur, daring to bite into its fatal weak point. But if you thought Amargasaurus was the pinnacle of eccentricity, its cousin Bajadasaurus pronispinax will prove the opposite. Although only officially described in 2019, Bajadasaurus immediately shattered all limits of human imagination with an extreme upgrade. Instead of pointing backward like Amargasaurus, the neural spines on the cervical vertebrae of Bajadasaurus were extremely elongated and curved sharply forward, pointing straight toward the skull. At first glance, this design seems absurd and cumbersome. But when analyzed through a mechanical lens, it is an unparalleled defensive masterpiece. Imagine the characteristic living posture of this dinosaur. When Bajadasaurus bowed its head completely down to the ground to graze on fern carpets, its neck and nape area would be completely exposed, becoming the prime target for ambush predators. The moment the neck lowered, the forward-curving, horn-covered spikes automatically erected, interlocking to form a highly treacherous, multi-layered barricade. Any carnivorous dinosaur rushing to attack from the front or from above would impale themselves on these biological spears before their teeth could even touch the prey's flesh. Bajadasaurus was not just an herbivore. It was a perfect mobile anti-air fortress. Leaving South America, we crossed the ancient oceans to arrive in the Sichuan region of China during the late Jurassic period. Here, evolution took a completely different turn to equip a sauropod species named Shunosaurus Lee with weapons. Most sauropod dinosaurs, if using their tails for self-defense, would evolve the tail into a giant whip, like Diplodocus, to lash at opponents with wind-tearing speed. But Shunosaurus possessed a much heavier weapon, an incredible convergent evolution with the famous armored dinosaur Ankylosaurus. The tip of Shunosaurus's tail did not taper, but bulged into a sturdy, dense bone club. More terrifyingly, protruding from this club were two pairs of sharp spikes about 5 centimeters long, looking like a spiked mace of medieval knights. Why would a long-necked dinosaur need this brutal weapon? The answer lies in survival pressure. Unlike its contemporary giants, Shunosaurus had a rather modest body, 9.5 meters long, weighing about 3 tons, and a short neck. Sichuan at that time was teeming with bloodthirsty and agile predators like Gasosaurus. Unable to intimidate enemies with a gigantic size, nor able to flee with pillar-like legs, Shunosaurus chose to stand its ground and fight. The kinetic energy generated from a swing of this muscular tail carrying the bone club was tremendous. It could easily shatter the ribcage, crush the ribs, or even smash the skull of any predator that stepped into its range. This deadly club is an eloquent testament to the flexibility and pragmatism of the survival process. Finally, when mentioning weapons and armor, the ultimate defense system of the sauropod family must be Saltasaurus, a true living tank of the late Cretaceous period. For a very long time, paleontology and pop culture always assumed that all long-necked dinosaurs possessed smooth, wrinkled, and rough skin similar to elephants. But Saltasaurus appeared and completely shattered that mold. Belonging to the giant titanosaur group, Saltasaurus's appearance, however, reminds people of a monster crocodile. Covering along the back and flanks of this giant creature were thousands of hard bone plates, osteoderms growing directly from beneath the skin. These bone armor plates varied in size, from large, rugged, plate-sized shields protruding high, to thousands of tiny bone nodules filling the gaps, weaving together into an unparalleled, impenetrable armor mesh. The evolutionary perspective behind this armor is a story of a brutal arms race. In the late Cretaceous period, carnivorous dinosaurs had evolved to their peak, becoming larger, smarter, with bone-crushing jaws and highly sophisticated pack-hunting behaviors. The mere massive size of the sauropods was no longer an absolute guarantee of safety. To counter razor-sharp jaws always aiming for weak points on the body, the ancestors of Saltasaurus decided to convert excess calcium into a passive defense system right on their own flesh. The teeth of any predator biting into the back or hip of Saltasaurus would only receive pain as if hitting a boulder. This armored tank quietly chewed leaves, invulnerable, ignoring the helpless cravings of the most dangerous predators on the planet. If Brachytrachelopan chose to shorten its neck to the absolute minimum, then at the completely opposite extreme, Mamenchisaurus pushed the long-neck design to an absurd extreme. Scattered across the vast plains of prehistoric China, this creature holds an unprecedented record that to this day no living thing on Earth has been able to break. Let's look at the staggering statistics of Mamenchisaurus sinocanidorum. A fully grown adult could reach a total length of up to 35 meters and weigh up to 80 tons, equivalent to the combined mass of 12 African elephants. But the most astonishing thing lies here. Its neck was up to 15 meters long, making up exactly half of its entire body length. Faced with this image, any physicist or architect would have to ask a big question. How could a biological structure made of bone, flesh, and muscle extend 15 meters forward without collapsing under its own weight, or without causing the animal to topple over due to a loss of center of gravity? Nature's answer lies in a design masterpiece called the pneumatic bone system. If that giant neck were made of solid bone, its mass would exceed the bearing capacity of any muscle group. Instead of adding more bone, Mamenchisaurus chose to hollow them out. Its 19 giant cervical vertebrae were actually a network of hollow cavities filled with air sacs, with air accounting for up to 77% of the bone volume. They functioned exactly like a honeycomb structure or layers of ultralight biological foam, yet were incredibly rigid. To counteract torque and keep the neck from bending down, nature also reinforced it with slender cervical ribs up to 4 meters long, crisscrossing each other like tension struts on a steel bridge. Thanks to this unimaginable design, Mamenchisaurus achieved the absolute peak of energy efficiency. Its bulky 80-ton body made continuous movement a terrible waste of calories. Instead, it only needed to stand still like a statue, using its ultralight neck to sweep a wide 180 degrees arc from left to right, from the ground vegetation up to the mid-level. Mamenchisaurus operated like a giant biological vacuum cleaner, scavenging all the surrounding energy sources completely without having to take a single step. Leaving the giants in China, our journey takes us to India during the late Cretaceous period to admire another bizarre geometric experiment named Isisaurus. If Mamenchisaurus is the pinnacle of elongated proportions, Isisaurus bore such a freakish physique that it makes people wonder whether it was a creature of extraterrestrial origin. Most sauropods followed a relatively harmonious body proportion to distribute their weight, but Isisaurus looked like a flawed sketch, striking the viewer's eye as an extreme disproportion. It possessed 2 giant front legs like triumphal pillars supporting a massively expanded, powerful chest. However, its 2 hind legs were incomprehensibly short. The neck of Isisaurus stretched vertically into the sky, but it was quite short and thick, not elegant like its relatives. The terrible disparity between the front and hind legs caused the entire back of Isisaurus to slope steeply backward. In the modern natural world, this walking posture is very similar to that of a hyena, a predator with high shoulders and low hips. The sight of a herbivorous giant weighing dozens of tons waddling around in the posture of a giant hyena is an image that is both humorous and grotesque. Although this physique may seem flawed in our eyes, in reality, Isisaurus was one of the most incredibly successful surviving species on the Indian subcontinent. This alien body proportion was the perfect adaptation that helped them efficiently exploit the specific vegetation on the rugged mountainous terrain of their habitat at that time. Our next destination takes us towards northern Germany, around 154 million years ago, which is the late Jurassic period. At that time, Europe was not a unified landmass like today, but an archipelago scattered amidst a shallow sea. Rising sea levels caused the land area to shrink severely. In these narrow strips of land, nature conducted one of the most severe evolutionary experiments, the phenomenon of insular dwarfism. On an island completely isolated from the mainland, as living space and massive food sources gradually depleted, the ravenous large creatures would be the first to fall and starve to death. To maintain the lineage, natural selection was forced to strip away the privilege of massive size, favoring only the smaller individuals that consumed less energy. The result of that fierce survival pressure was the birth of Europasaurus holgeri. Despite carrying the bloodline of giant ancestors weighing dozens of tons, Europasaurus continuously shrank its body through many generations of evolution. Incredibly, a fully grown Europasaurus individual was only about 6 meters long and weighed less than 1 ton, equivalent only to the size of a modern bull. This length was not even equal to the neck of the giant dinosaur Mamenchisaurus. This trade-off in size brought about a spectacular change in ecological behavior. Losing its massive body, Europasaurus was no longer able to intimidate enemies or protect itself in traditional ways. To compensate for their physical vulnerability, they developed an incredibly complex social structure. Instead of laying eggs and leaving the young to fend for themselves like most other giant sauropods, Europasaurus gathered into tight-knit herds, coordinating together to keep watch and carefully care for the next generation to defend against predators on the island. Today's journey has taken us for a walk around the prehistoric Earth, from the jagged-toothed vacuum cleaners on the African continent, the towering spiky fortresses in South America, the deadly muscular tail clubs in Asia, to the creature-shrinking islands in Europe. All of these have completely shattered the stereotype that long-necked dinosaurs were just a boring and monotonous mold. Through these puzzle pieces, we realize a profoundly deep scientific message. Evolution has never pursued beauty or absolute perfection. It is essentially a continuous trial and error process, solving survival problems in a highly pragmatic and sometimes incredibly extreme manner. These creatures might be considered freakish or bizarre by modern humans, but that very freakishness was the golden key that helped the sauropod lineage maintain a great dynasty, dominating the blue planet for over 100 million years. Paleontology is still working diligently to excavate more mysteries hidden deep underground, constantly reminding us that the limit of nature's imagination has no bounds. Which weirdo among the creatures we just explored impressed you the most? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and see you next time.